Since the discovery of her bones in 1974, scientists have long wondered what killed our most famous human ancestor, Lucy. Researchers found the skeleton sticking out of a shallow stream bed in Ethiopia. The bones have since provided new insight about life for early humans more than 3 million years ago.
For decades, Lucy has remained one of the most iconic and mysterious figures in human evolutionary history. Discovered in 1974 in Ethiopia, this 3.2 million-year-old fossilized skeleton of Australopithecus afarensis stunned scientists with its completeness and clarity, offering a rare window into our distant past. Lucy was small, bipedal, and clearly a crucial link between apes and modern humans. But while researchers have long debated how she lived, a new study claims to solve an even more haunting mystery: how she died. Digital autopsies.
There is a single common origin for humanity. No matter the shape of our eyes, no matter the color of our skin, no matter the shape of our hair, no matter what kind of culture we live in, we all carry those same genes in our body. We are united by our past. We're united by this common beginning.
It would have been a collision of about 60 kilometers per hour, which is over 35 miles an hour, bang, hitting the ground that fast.
The idea that Lucy might have fallen to her death sounds dramatic, almost cinematic, but the science behind it is grounded in hard data and 21st century technology. When Lucy toured the United States as part of the Lucy's Legacy exhibit beginning in 2007, she secretly detoured to the University of Texas at Austin. There, her fossilized bones underwent high-resolution CT scanning, more than 35,000 slices in all, at a facility designed to penetrate dense materials far more solid than typical bone. This non-destructive technique gave scientists their first clear look at the internal structure of each bone, revealing new information that had previously been invisible. One of the most compelling discoveries came from Lucy's right humerus, or upper arm bone. Lead researcher John Kappelman noticed a clean, angular break with tiny bone slivers still held in place, an unusual detail that didn't match the typical post-mortem damage caused by fossilization. He consulted with orthopedic surgeon Dr. Stephen Pierce, who identified the pattern as a 4-part proximal humerus fracture. In living patients, this type of injury is usually caused by someone falling and instinctively reaching out an arm to break the fall. The force compresses the bones against one another, creating a telltale break. But the humerus wasn't the only bone that raised questions. Fractures were also found in Lucy's pelvis, left knee, ankle, ribs, and shoulders. Some of these, like a pylon fracture in her ankle and a cracked rib near the sternum, are considered high-energy compressive injuries, most often seen in individuals who fall from significant heights. The lack of any signs of healing in these bones also suggests they occurred shortly before death, supporting the theory that the trauma wasn't from erosion or fossilization, but from a fatal event. The CT scans gave researchers a virtual skeleton to manipulate and study, allowing them to reconstruct Lucy's injuries in 3D. The pattern of fractures appeared consistent with the scenario in which Lucy fell from a tree, landed feet first, and then extended her arms in a futile attempt to break her fall. Quote, "Death followed swiftly," Kappelman concluded. He estimates she fell from a height of more than 40 feet, striking the ground at over 35 miles per hour, a lethal fall for a creature her size. This virtual autopsy reshaped Lucy's story. Rather than dying from illness, a predator, or old age, she may have suffered a fatal accident. Tree dweller or ground walker? The great debate.
Lucy was just over a meter tall, with an ape-like face and a small brain. She had long arms and short legs, but she also possessed an important human feature, the ability to walk upright.
Fractures in her bones suggest she came down feet first, tumbled forward, and stretched out her arms to break the fall. Death quickly followed.
From the beginning, Lucy has been at the heart of a major debate. Just how much time did Australopithecus afarensis spend in trees? Lucy walked upright, as evidenced by her knee joints, pelvis, and spinal structure. Her bipedalism was a defining trait, an evolutionary milestone signaling a shift from forest dwelling to open savanna survival. But her arms were long, her fingers curved, and her shoulder blades well suited for climbing, suggesting that trees may have still played a central role in her daily life. Those who support the tree fall theory argue that Lucy's death underscores her arboreal habits. If she fell from a height, it implies she was in a tree to begin with, perhaps for foraging or sleeping. Given her small size and vulnerability to predators, trees likely offered refuge at night. Her foot structure, while adapted for walking, could still grip branches, making her a transitional figure between quadrupedal climbers and true land walkers. But not everyone agrees. Critics argue that Lucy's injuries can be explained by what's known as taphonomic damage, the changes that happen to bones after death due to environmental pressures, geological forces, and the fossilization process. Tim White, a renowned paleoanthropologist at UC Berkeley, who has also studied Lucy extensively, has voiced strong skepticism. He believes the breaks are typical of fossil deformation and cautions against calling them fractures, a term used for injuries in living bodies. In his view, Lucy's bones were likely cracked and crushed by sediment, not a fall. William Youngers of Stony Brook University, however, after initially expressing doubt, later found the tree hypothesis plausible upon reviewing the data. Still, the split remains sharp, with some researchers demanding more evidence, such as bone microfracture patterns or trauma-related residues, to truly confirm perimortem injury. This disagreement illustrates a broader problem in paleoanthropology. Even the best preserved fossils only tell part of the story. Bones don't record intention or environment. Scientists must infer context through comparison and modeling. Whether Lucy was mostly terrestrial or still an agile climber might not be definitively known. But if her injuries really were caused by a fall, it would suggest her species hadn't yet given up life among the branches. The irony of evolution.
The majority of the fractures in her skeleton are postmortem fractures. However, in the course of our studies, we started looking in at particular areas where the fractures themselves seem to be different. These represent bone-to-bone impact, compressively done, that drove the two different kinds of bones together against one another. In looking through the possibilities for what might have driven that, it had to be a high-energy impact. In studying the environment where she was found, there's no evidence for cliffs, and because the skeleton is so complete, we don't think the skeleton was transported very far, or that it was ravaged by carnivores. That leaves us then to get in order to generate that high force, probably she was up in the trees.
In order to fall from a tree, Lucy would have had to spend time in trees, right? And scientists are split on whether or not her species was still doing a lot of climbing. So what actually happened to Lucy? Did she really take an ancient nosedive?
There's a certain irony in the idea that Lucy, a fossil long seen as a symbol of our transition from trees to the ground, might have died because she still spent time climbing. If her death was indeed the result of a fall from a great height, it points to a dangerous intersection between two evolutionary paths. Lucy may have evolved enough to walk upright on land but still relied on the trees for safety or food. In doing so, she was possibly caught in an evolutionary trade-off. John Kappelman suggests this very compromise could have been Lucy's undoing. While her skeletal frame was adapted for bipedal locomotion, these adaptations may have come at the cost of tree climbing ability. Unlike chimpanzees, which are natural climbers with flexible ankles and strong upper limbs, Lucy's anatomy made climbing riskier. Her feet, though partially suited for gripping, were angled for walking, and her reduced arm strength compared to earlier hominins might have made arboreal movement more hazardous. In other words, Lucy could have been stuck in the middle, no longer the agile climber her ancestors were, yet not the fully terrestrial walker her descendants would become. This middle ground existence may have created new dangers, like the fatal fall that potentially ended her life. Evolution, after all, is not always a perfect process. It often involves compromise, trial, and error. The fractures found in her humerus, pelvis, ankle, and ribs align with what we know about modern fall injuries. Orthopedic surgeons can often tell how a person landed based on where the bones break. The same logic applied to Lucy reveals a grim but scientifically illuminating scenario. She may have slipped while climbing, dropped through branches, and hit the ground hard enough to suffer multiple fatal injuries. This evolutionary irony, that the symbol of our terrestrial triumph may have perished in a tree, adds a layer of depth to Lucy's legacy. It reminds us that evolution is not a clean progression, but a winding, sometimes tragic path. Open science and the democratization of discovery.
In this science democracy, we all get to share our experience as we collaborate to make discoveries that could cure diseases, hold back climate change, discover or explore new planets, help turn brain data into understanding mental health, enhance our own mental health while we're doing it, transform online education, and make science that we can all trust and believe in.
One of the most groundbreaking aspects of the new study isn't just the conclusion, it's how the data is being shared. For the first time in history, 3D models of Lucy's skeletal elements are being released to the public by the Ethiopian government. Anyone with access to a 3D printer can now download digital files of her right shoulder and left knee and examine them for themselves. It's a bold step towards democratizing science and letting people across the globe take part in re-evaluating one of humanity's most significant fossils. This level of transparency is virtually unheard of in paleoanthropology, a field where access to original fossils is tightly controlled and often limited to elite institutions. By releasing digital scans, the Ethiopian National Museum and the University of Texas have opened the door for greater scrutiny, collaboration, and perhaps even alternative interpretations. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Lucy really fell from a tree, or are the fractures just the product of time and fossilization? Let us know in the comments section below.